Can you guess who my favorite pony is? Trixie Moon is a character that really captivated me as a kid. I was never really a big fan of characters whose ego was the crux of their personality. I just found them to be more annoying than funny or charming. But for Trixie, she was so over the top and extra, it was impossible for me to not crack up every time she was on screen. To put it simply, Your Honor, she was a and I loved her. I know her episodes aren't the most beloved, especially her debut, Ghostbusters, but what makes it so unique is that Trixie is never the problem in those episodes, but usually the issue is every character around her, because despite being billed as an antagonist, she basically does nothing wrong. In her first episode, all she did was put on a free magic show and told tall tales for the sake of showmanship, and two dumb kids took it literally and attracted a dangerous animal to the town, thinking she'd be able to stop it, which ended up costing Trixie her career. In her second episode, Magic Duel, her mind was literally taken over by a magical amulet, forcing her to act against her will, when all she wanted to do was stand up to a pony that basically ruined her reputation. And in her third episode, No Second Prances, before she became a reoccurring character, she is found trying to find a way to apologize, with Twilight still holding a grudge against her, despite the fact, once again, she did nothing wrong. This poor horse cannot catch a break, so fans feeling sympathy for her plight might have helped propel her to become a fan favorite. I'm sure everyone has felt the sting of unfairness and failure, so it was uplifting when she was given the chance to become a proper protagonist. But then, something changed.
Once the series came to an end and the postmodern era of the fandom began, retrospective deconstructions of each of the characters began to take shape, either sincerely or ironically. And the character that seemed to be the face of these revelations was Trixie. If you were around during the early ages of the fandom, queerness was sort of taboo. Queer men or transgender women could be ostracized, whilst gay women could be fetishized. A lot of this gay panic came from the fear of public perception. Despite being a show whose target audience was young girls, much of the straight cisgender male fans were scared of being perceived as feminine or queer. Being a part of the LGBTQ+ community didn't bar you entrance to the fandom, but it did frame you as an anomaly. Always followed with the pretense that, oh, not every brony is queer, as if you're giving the fandom a bad rap. The issue of queerophobia can be seen especially in that awful 2012 brony documentary, with some bronies needing an entire feature film to prove to everybody how not gay they are. As time progressed, the fandom let its guard down and became a far more accepting place, especially since the people behind the show were pretty strong LGBTQ+ activists, which brings us to Lauren Faust. As I'm sure most of you know, Lauren Faust is the woman behind the creation of Friendship is Magic, who surprisingly left after the second season, but she liked to play around with the community afterwards, as it was never something in her career that she regretted. In 2016, in a series of joke tweets about Friendship is Magic, she would make a comment stating that a season 1 character was transgender. Though initially dismissed as a joke, she would later clarify that to her, the unspecified character was in fact transgender. This left fans to spiral for answers, several different theories being formed, but the one that stood out the most was, of course, Trixie. The evidence presented of Trixie's trans identity is highly contentious, with a lot of misinformation being spread around. So I want to make everything as crystal clear as possible. Trixie Moon is transgender, male to female. In the original pitch Bible, Trixie was envisioned to be a stallion, but for whatever production-related reason was changed to be a mare. She also shares a particular design detail unique to stallions, a single eye shine. Whilst mares have 2 eye shines, only stallions can have either 1 or 2 eye shines, communicating to the audience that Trixie was born male. Some may now object and say that other female characters like Nightmare Moon or Granny Smith both also share a single eye shine, with Granny Smith being commonly accepted as the biological grandmother of Applejack and her siblings. However, Trixie isn't some originally drawn vector like Nightmare Moon and Granny Smith. She's built off the skeleton of the stock standard mares in season 1, who all have 2 eye shines.
It would have to be a deliberate yet subtle decision to let that arbitrary detail stay intact. Even then, a single eye shine was used to communicate different ideas in different ponies. For Nightmare Moon, it was to make her look more menacing, and for Granny Smith, it's to show her age and poor eyesight. So it's not a stretch to say that it communicates something unique about Trixie. And please don't try to bring up Caramel or Big Mac as a deflection. Caramel isn't actually trans. The mare that has the same color scheme and cutie mark is just a standard background pony named Toffee, who doesn't make Caramel vanish from the series when she shows up. And Big Mac's gender fluidity was introduced years after Lauren Faust left the show. So who else could it really be? A character who was intended to be a male but was transitioned into a female and retained a detail unique to male characters, or some other pony that could realistically just be anyone. Even if this design philosophy was abandoned in later seasons, it doesn't change the fact that the information was communicated to the audience regardless at one point. But the adamant deflection of Trixie's trans identity continues into the season 3 episode Magic Duel. In the episode, Twilight tries to fool Trixie by performing a bunch of fake spells, including one that turns a mare into a stallion. To which, in the end of the episode, Twilight says no spells like hers could ever exist. This is what many naysayers use against the idea of Trixie or any other character being trans. But being trans doesn't mean physically changing your entire biological makeup like an Animorph character. No one transitions like that. It's more than likely that for Trixie to be trans, that she would have needed to take hormones or other gender-affirming medical care. Yeah, right. Like they'd even have HRT in a medieval fantasy land. Get real. Which is the most insane counter-argument that I have ever seen, because there are hospitals in this show. Doctors, nurses, surgeons, not everything is solved with magic healing. As a matter of fact, it's usually seen as a rarity. Anyway, what did the fans do with the information that Trixie is trans? Well, they kinda went crazy. This spawned so much fantastic work that I'm going to be leaving links in the description of trans Trixie media for you to check out. But one that I wanted to talk about the most was the work done by the amazingly talented Vylet pony. If you haven't listened to her work before, what are you waiting for? It's some of the best music to have ever come out of this fandom, and her album, Queen of Misfits, literally brought me to tears while writing for this video. The album is an entire tribute to the character of Trixie, displaying her as this beautiful figure in spite of her flaws or mistakes, with the underlying theme of reaffirming yourself and the acceptance of your identity. The whole album is incredibly moving from start to finish, and I guarantee it wouldn't have been made if the trans perspective of Trixie never came to light. Most would have just dismissed her as just another cute mare, but now she represents something much deeper. It seems like the resurgence of popularity for the character might be poking its head into mainstream circles. As for the very first convention exclusive My Little Pony plush from Symbiote Studios, we got a special Trixie plush, not a Unicorn Twilight or a Flutterbat or Nightmare Moon, but Trixie. And they are really aware of their fans. And who knows, maybe one day they'd recognize the importance Trixie has to their trans fans. I don't really know how to end this video. A lot of it was randomly sorted thoughts with no clear through line. But if there's one thing I've learned from Trixie, it's that there is nothing wrong with being spontaneous. That's all I have for today. I've been May, and thank you for watching.